Okay, we will call the September meeting of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee to order at 7:09 p.m. We'll start with introductions. Let's start over here with Sean.
Sean Datchler.
Bob Burns.
Brian Burke.
Brian Watt.
Mike Mitchell.
Joyce Gifford.
Adam Bakovsky.
John Benjamin.
Denise Kai, staff.
Okay. On to approval of minutes. Everybody had a chance to review last month's minutes, or the last meeting, I guess, it wasn't last month. Any additions or corrections to the minutes? Okay. Motion to approve? Somebody?
Move.
Aye.
Okay.
Second.
And a second. Okay. Moved and seconded to approve the minutes. All those all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Zooming right along. We are on to citizen comments on issues and items not on the agenda, and I see we have one guest. If you'd like to come up and introduce yourself, please.
Take my hat off so they can get my good side. I guess that's which one I get to choose. My name's Bob Mahoney. I live in Oregon City, up near Rivercrest Park. And one of the reasons I'm here tonight is to commend you, ladies and gentlemen, for your park system. I'm a former land use planner, and one of the strengths of a city will always be its open space and its library system, parks, recreation, things like that, because you touch the public initially with their kids, and moms are always taking their kids to the park. Disney had it right. He says, if you want to make an impact, then do something for the kids, because mom and dad have to come along. Now you got three people, Yeah. So his marketing scheme, he just kept it simple. Anyway, Rivercrest Park is really a jewel. We've lived up there for almost 10 years, right across from the park. Never had a problem. One of the great sounds we hear is kids laughing. That's just a great sound. And very seldom do we get... well, I don't think since the 10 years we've been up there we got any 911 calls because somebody was misbehaving or what have you. So I just want to keep up the good work. And I think one of the things that you want to do is keep in coordination and communication with the city commission. Always let them know. Just talk back and forth. I don't care if it's good morning, how are you? Just keep being friends. This isn't rocket science, folks. All you have to do is just talk, and smile, because, enough problems are going to come your way, but there's nothing we can't do if we work together doing it, really. And there'll be some misunderstandings, but usually it's just a choice of words, Just make sure they're not four-letter words, but count before you speak. Yeah, not think. The other thing I want to talk to you about is, and I hope I'm not talking out of line here or out of sync, but I'm on the planning commission, and I'm not talking for them. I'm talking for myself. But Chinese have a saying: "May you live in interesting times." Guess what? We do. And one of the interesting things that we have confronting us will be the Blue Heron site, which I understand you just toured tonight. Which, good for you. Anybody get their feet wet? Well. Sooner or later, in the process of putting this plan together, somebody's going to have to either fish or cut bait, or as they say, pull the trigger. And the reason I say that is because everybody agrees in this whole region that there ought to be public access to the park because of the history and just the falls itself, because this could be a tourist attraction that just supersedes anything in the state. It could be international. And it could have some boating activity on the river and stuff like that. So sooner or later, there's going to have to be an identification of not just what. The what, I think, has already been determined, the open space and public access. But the where is going to be the choke point. The where, how much. It could be a sidewalk like that, right? And, well, that's not going to fly. You know it and I know it, But there's going to be public funds involved. There already are. They're being spent on planning and what have you. Sooner or later, there's going to have to be public funds spent on acquisition. That acquisition point is the item of debate. That will be the item of debate. How much and when? Because we're looking for this thing to pan out over probably maybe the next 20 years. And the reason I say that, because nobody's got any money. The developers don't have any money. The banks have got the money, but they're playing their cards like that. Everybody wants the other guy to move first. So if the developer can't get money to capitalize the project and what have you, to build and get a cash flow system going for the return on their investment, then it's going to be a slow process. And then that's going to, memories fade and what have you. But we've got to establish, in my judgment, and this is where I think the parks, you people here, ought to be communicating with the Planning Commission and the City Commission as to what it is you expect. And this is where I suggest that those lines of communication, stay open. Do not be bashful about coming to these input sessions as a Park and Recreation Board. You say, this is what we expect. This is what we think would be best. We'd like to hear that input. It's got to be. So I think everything will pretty much be positive, but everything is, the devil's in the details. We all know that, and I don't mean to say we have to do it now, but somewhere down the line, just be advised that the Planning Commission, the City Commission may call upon you and say, hey, ladies and gents, what do you think? And if it's not done, then it should be. And that'll be a communication factor that I think will establish some input from you people and as an official comment in behalf of the city, because you really do represent the public. So that's going to be a big, big factor, because it really could have some implications on the commerce factor, the money that's brought into this community from tourism and what have you, just to go up to those falls and see what it's all about. So anyway, I just wanted to say that to you and commend you on the job that you're doing as a tax-paying citizen. And if we can't get it done here at the local level, I'm sure Congress will at their fast pace, will figure out a way to get an overnight decision somewhere along the line. Okay, good. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you. Appreciate your
And
comments.
I took off my hat. I'm just kidding.
We appreciate your comments about the park system, and it's been said before, but Denise and Scott and Larry and the whole staff, we all know that we have way less people than we should, and they do a remarkable job, and it's nice to have that feedback.
One of the
We
great
appreciate
sounds in this city is when you have a kid laughing, going through those splash parks and stuff like that.
Yep.
And then you got the tennis ball going back and forth, and you got guys that are older than I am playing basketball or making an excuse thinking it is, up there, that kind of stuff,
And your comments on the Blue Heron site, we've all, it's been on our radar.
Yep.
And I think for those of us who had a chance to just take that tour, it's all the more so now, because when you get in there and really see it up close, it's a world-class opportunity. And it is going to take a lot of vision and a lot of planning and a lot of money and a lot of time. But we got to make sure that the park side of it and the public access is planned into it up front.
Yes, you just hit the nail on the head, up front. Because once you get that up front, you convince the public that, okay, now they mean business. You see, the money's going to come from the private development. It's just when money loosens up and this economy gets going and that kind of stuff. It's too attractive a site not to build up. But that's up to the city to make it feasible and that kind of stuff. There's a lot of players in this thing, and I just don't want somebody to pick up their bat and go home, So and it could happen, And if it does happen, if this thing blows up in our face, don't start pointing fingers. It's probably something we don't know anything about, really. So we're doing our best. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any more comments on those comments? Okay. We will move on to our general business. And the 5A has been on our agenda a couple of times, and I think tonight we want to get to a point where we make a recommendation to the City Commission. Just as a reminder, this is the trial program to allow dogs off leash in one or more city parks or portions of city parks. So with that, I'll just open it up. We've talked about, and now I can't put my eyes on my notes. We've talked about the Phase 2 part of Wesley Lynn. Barclay, right,
Yes.
was mentioned. Atkinson, I think.
Yes.
And Park Place.
Yes.
Were there others?
Stafford.
Are there additions? Stafford?
Stafford.
Okay.
What was the results of our survey at our Parks Day? Or did we get enough participation to warrant any results?
I would not say that is a great cross-section of our community, since I know that in speaking to a few people, they weren't even from Oregon City, but they did participate. In total, I think we got 5, 9, 10, 14 responses. So again, I would not say this is a good cross-section of our community, but the largest portion of votes went to Park Place and the northwest portion of Wesley Lynn Park. There was Rivercrest was also noted in the other category, and Singer Creek Park. So, of the ones that we put on the questionnaire, Atkinson, Barclay, northwest portion of Wesley Lynn, Stafford, and Park Place. Again, Wesley Lynn and Park Place were the ones that had the most votes.
Mike,
Yes.
may I address the issue?
You certainly may.
Okay. I've been trying to give some thought to this as we've been talking about it the last 3 or 4 months, and I tried to jot down some what I consider to be some suggested criteria, and some goes back to the paper that was handed out a month or two ago that listed some criteria. One is parking. 2 is adequate space. There needs to be adequate space in the existing parks. These are my ideas, by the way. Number 3, proximity to neighbors needs to be a consideration. I'm thinking of the Gladstone issue. I'm sure a lot of you saw the paper about the issue in Gladstone with their off-leash dog area. 4, they shouldn't conflict with other park activities and spaces. For example, if there's area for kids' apparatus and things, we shouldn't have the off-leash area close to that. They should be far enough away from existing activities and spaces. I think we ought to have at least 2 for access. I think somebody brought up earlier about input from the neighborhood association. I really think that's important. Thinking once again of the Gladstone issue, that I think it'd be poor to surprise people all of a sudden there's a bunch of dogs running around off leash and the neighborhood association hasn't had at least been notified or input into that. Also was mentioned there should be a trial, maybe a 1-year trial with the reconsideration. And then I drove around and looked at all of them, I think, that are on the list. And Atkinson is the one up on the hill, isn't it? Far north. I like that one. The problem with it is the lack of adequate parking.
Yes.
It's all on street, and I tried to count the spaces. It looked like 5 or 6 would be pretty much exhaust the available spaces. Barclay was suggested by the mayor, as I recall, one of his early ideas, and it's all on-street parking, but you could get probably 15, 20 cars along the street on 2 different streets there, and it wouldn't interfere with other park activities or spaces. It's a rather limited space, but it does have some upside, I think. I like Stafford. I think, is that the one on Holmes Lane? The problem is, there's really a problem with parking. But if we could punch a hole through on, is it Holmes Avenue? That couldn't be done right away, but maybe down the road, if that space seems adequate, could develop some parking down the line. Those are my ideas. So.
I think we all got it, but just to get it out there, Lisa, who couldn't be here tonight, wanted to express her opinion in favor of the Wesley Lynn idea. And personally, that's the one that would be my number one. I like the idea of what Bob just said, where we recommend more than one, and then we leave it up to the city commission to decide. They're to look. We're not, and this kind of goes back, and Denise, maybe you can weigh in here too. Bob, your comment about getting the neighborhood association involved. I would think that would be part of the city commission's process to making it happen. I don't think they're just going to throw it out. I think they would probably be the ones to reach out for that. We don't have the power to say it.
I didn't mean that we would do it. I meant it ought to be on the list.
It needs to be.
Yeah.
Wesley Lynn
Understand.
Park happens to be in Sean and my neighborhood, and they happen to be having a meeting next Tuesday night, our general meeting. And so I would be happy to, bring up the possibility. It's a pretty full agenda right now at that particular meeting. But I'm also on the steering committee for the neighborhood association. So, it's something that we can definitely bring up. But I think, that it's our job. It's not necessarily the city commission's job. We need to bring this to the CIC. Get them, or does it need to go through city commission first before it gets put out to CIC?
I think at this point, they're looking for a recommendation to the commission. And at that point, the commission may come back and task you with disseminating information to
Rules
whoever.
or whatever. Yeah.
So the commission can direct you to, or ask you to please go out and champion the cause, and then it's good factually based information.
They may narrow our scope a bit too. We don't want to get too much information out there if it isn't something that's going to happen.
How much parking is there at that far end of Wesley Lynn Park, and not park up where all the ball players have to park? Is there parking?
The
near
other
there?
side,
Yeah.
that's neighborhood parking.
Street parking.
There's street and neighborhood, yeah.
Yeah.
It's all street and neighborhood, but it's fairly wide open. There's not a lot of people that park there. So currently, you don't even notice, with the amount of dogs that are already being run off leash in the area, I don't notice additional cars parking there. So they could be neighbors. I'm not sure if they're people driving in. There's one or two cars on the street. It's not overloaded, would be.
Currently, because we haven't advertised it as
Right.
Well,
off-leash.
I think if we advertise off-leash area, not a dog park where people
Right.
can let their dogs go and be in a confined
Right.
space, so they don't have to worry about the dog running into the street. I don't think we're going to get tons of people from outside the neighborhood that are not going to drive somewhere that's just an off-leash area. Versus a dog park, I think, official dog park where it's fenced off, I think that is then we need to really consider parking, because people will drive distances to go to a fenced dog area. So I think as far as parking goes, I think there's a big difference what we need to, it's part of our consideration, but I'm not sure that saying this area is now off leash, I don't think people are going to drive to that area because it's now off leash. I think it's still going to attract the same people that are already there, the neighbors. And
And a few more, maybe.
yeah, a few more, but I don't think a huge deal until it's designated as a dog park and protected differently.
Depends on how you advertise it. I mean, if you say it's we are relaxing the rules of, the rules in Oregon City pertaining to the parks, the dogs need to be on a leash. We're relaxing that in these 3 parks or these 2 parks or this 1 park. That could be possibly the way you go about it. But yeah, just so there's no misunderstanding that this is not a dog park. We're not
Right.
creating a dog park, but the rules are being relaxed to allow for what's, you probably wouldn't say what's already happening, but anyway.
Yes. And maybe if we have multiple off-leash parks, that would relieve, instead of just one, it would not make everybody, those that are going to get going there, not go to all the same spot. And I don't know, I kind of like Park Place as part of it. That's as far as that park goes, we don't have immediate neighborhood. There's a nice buffer, depending on where you put it in that park. There's a nice buffer between areas, which obviously Gladstone's having a little bit of issues with currently. So,
Could I ask, what is the Gladstone? What happened?
brought the
I have
paper.
no idea. I haven't read it.
I can summarize.
Sure.
There's specifically one neighbor who is directly adjacent to the property. There's no buffer whatsoever.
It's a cyclone fence.
Well, and I think the real issue, my parents live 4 houses down, and from what they've said is the city originally said, hey, we're going to do this. He said, great. They said, we're going to do it, and we're going to put in this row of hedges, so you're going to have a buffer between your house and the dog park, and the city never made do on that promise. And he's upset about it, and he's like, I don't necessarily want the park to go away, but this is something they promised me, and
It
they haven't come
smells and other things.
through. And
It isn't-
smells
it isn't
and
maintained.
barks
So
and
they're
they-
not picking up and stuff. Yeah.
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 And so I think it's just they're not following through on the promises that they originally put out there, and the neighbor's upset. I think.
And we're not making any promises because it's not a dog park.
At
What,
this-
what paper was that in? That's from the Oregon City News.
a couple weeks ago.
No, it's last Thursday's
Oregon.
local section in the Oregonian.
Okay.
Again, this is still, I think we were still in the concept of a test pilot.
Yes.
Correct.
So
Right.
we're not designating a permanent. So this is information gathering. Does it work? Does it not work? Are we seeing other issues?
Yeah. What can we learn?
And I
And
think,
I think that's part of the promotion of it too, is you say, this is a test, and it's got to be self-policing, and if it doesn't work, the commission's likely to pull the plug on it. So,
Yeah.
Chair.
yes, Sean.
My thoughts on this, the most important part, I think, is that we give equal representation around the city. And so I would advocate for Wesleyland. I would also advocate for Barkley. There's already been kind of a desire. The mayor's kind of in favor of that. And then Park Place. That way the whole city feels like we're paying attention to them, especially because it's a test. We could quickly find out that one is a success and one's a failure, and we can pull the plug
And
quickly.
why, yeah.
The second part, kind of going along with what Joyce said, is I think it's very important that when we take this to the city commission, that we're done with our research. And so to me, I believe the research includes talking to the neighborhood associations. I think that's our responsibility. But I also don't want to step on the city commission's toes, so I would recommend that the chair contact the mayor and just ask his advice on procedure. But my hunch is that we should be doing that and then going to the commission saying, here's our 2 or 3 recommendations. We've spoken to these groups of citizens. We have support all the way through, and the book's closed. They've got a lot of stuff to pay attention to, and the less that we have to put on them to pay attention to in the matter of the details, we can put it all in front of them, I think is important.
I tend to agree with Sean about going to the commission, but I sure wouldn't want to create a problem for the commission by getting the neighborhoods all upset, and then they have to deal with the problem that we've created. So maybe the idea of the chair, if you're willing to call him and ask advice about contacting the neighborhood association, if that would be part of our role or not. He might say, go for it. He might say, back off and let us work on it.
and then the other thing we could do is say, this is our proposal, and this is what we would do, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, if any one of these 3 were chosen. Because we could still stir up things that we don't really. One is doing work that we wouldn't need to do. The commission may come back and say, well, we're not ready to do this at this time. So we would have spent several hours or whatever doing something that we didn't need to do. But I mean, I hear what you're saying too, Sean. But we should have a plan. We should say, okay, this is it. Here's our plan. Should you approve any one of these 3? This is what we're going to do. Or you could talk to them on the phone and say, this is what we would do, or we could do it prior to it. You could get a feeling for what the commission would may suggest or may like to see.
I think we have a feeling from the mayor because he made a suggestion.
Right.
So I think the group needs to be of a consensus of how they'd like to go through the process of either making the recommendation to the commission, or if you folks are uncomfortable making a recommendation right off the bat, if you feel like you need more process.
I think I agree with Sean's choice of the parks. Those are the 3 that I was thinking, because you're talking about different neighborhoods. So and I think those 3, it would make sense that you could do them all at the same time. and then one might shine through as the one that we want to continue with, or all of them, or whatever. You know, it didn't work over here, but it did work over here. And that way you're not doing one at a time, and then, well, okay, next year we'll do this one. And
Yeah.
I think all those three at the same time isn't
I
too
do
much.
like that.
So I do like those three parks. That would be my vote.
I would agree with those three. I'm still thinking about this, and I'm more than happy to call the mayor. I don't have a problem with doing that. Either, I don't know whether staff will present this to the commissioner, whether I would go public comment, however, but maybe we, as we roll out, here's our three suggestions and why, and PrAC is more than willing to contact the neighborhood associations if you want us to, before you go any further with your deliberation, to see if they would be in favor of that. I guess I'm just a little worried that if we start this ball rolling and that they're going to feel like we're trying to ramrod something through, even though the mayor is the one that brought it up. I don't want to feel like we're
But there's
trying to
other
paint the commission
commission
into something.
members besides just the.
Right, and there was some nodding of heads. I don't recall anybody else said anything
Right.
out loud, but they didn't. There was generally a positive
Right,
feeling.
I believe so.
So,
I-
Bob and Sean, does that address
I
your
don't leave
concern
Scott
about-
out of the loop. That's Denise's job, I guess, to make sure Scott's on board with whatever we think we should be doing.
right?
My only fear is I don't think it's appropriate for us now to walk into the city commission with a plan if we're already questioning the need to talk to a neighborhood association. I don't think we should be soliciting advice from them during a public comment period at a meeting. I think that as a public body, we are charged with that. I think the city commission is looking at us for advice, and if we need to do the research on the advice, then we should be able to do that.
The directive that I got from the city commission was, bring us your recommendations.
I
Period.
think
To solidify our recommendation, we would need to talk to the neighborhood associations, see if there's going to be pushback.
Are we putting the
But-
cart before the horse? Is what I'm
Yeah.
concerned
Right,
about. Because I don't want to get everybody excited, and then for whatever reason, commission has different concerns or something that we're not aware of, and then now we have three neighborhoods that we've talked to and say, hey, this is kind of what we want to do, and then it doesn't happen. And
Yeah, I think you hold that close.
so I'm kind of mixed of which way do we go.
Well, and as soon as you walk into a city commission meeting, do it during public comment period,
Well,
it's wide open.
It
So the phone call seems to answer that and give us guidance and direction as to what is needed. That's my thinking. He may say
Well-
the next commission meeting, please come up and present that.
What they don't want us to come up and say, well, this is what we've done. What do you want us to do? We're going to present. I believe we should present the three parks or whatever we decide tonight, and say this is what we will do. This is what we will do if these three sound good to you. Then this is what we will do. X, Y, and Z. ABC, X, Y, Z. And then,
And if that's the case, I would suspect Scott would ask to have this put on as an agenda
I
item,
would
and it's not a public
not-
comment
correct.
period. And I think one or more of us should
Exactly.
attend with you and show our
Right.
support as a group, and I would be happy to
Right.
well,
volunteer to do that.
we'd have more time to discuss too if we were on an agenda item.
Mhm.
So
Do we need a motion for that then?
I don't think so, but I mean, we at least need a consensus, unless somebody thinks we should vote. I mean, how many people believe those three parks sounds
those are
good?
the best.
Like a
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
plan.
Favor, yeah.
Yeah.
Just to recap, the three parks are
Wesley Lynn, the northwest, I guess it is, part. The phase two part, Barclay, and Park Place.
Correct.
So that would be our recommendation to the commission, and
For a trial period of
we'll get
off-leash
Scott's advice Right, trial period, off-leash. We'll get Scott's advice whether it should be public comment or an agenda item. And I'll probably get Scott's advice on that whole question of, should we talk to the mayor before to find out if we should be talking to the neighborhood association.
So I don't bring it up at this general
think
meeting.
that's-
because
I think
the
it's a
next
little
general
soon.
meeting's not till
It's too soon.
January.
I know, but
I wouldn't-
we're not going to have an off-leash area until after the weather stops being lousy in July.
They may push it to a work session. I've done that before, represented PrAC in work sessions and had some really frank discussions across the table, and that works really well as well. Also,
Yeah, I think it's premature to talk to the neighborhood association. The neighborhood association needs to be involved.
Although
but,
if anybody's watching, they can.
and it has been brought
It's
up.
out there. It's not- we're not hiding
it's-
anything.
No, it is out there.
Okay.
Smile.
Okay. So we have somewhat of an agreement?
Yes.
I would
Thanks.
just say, Mike, I would just say that between Scott, Denise, Larry, and us, we have whatever we think is our responsibility, and we go into that meeting, we say, this is what we know we should be doing, and not like be begging them to tell us what we should do if they approve this. We need to tell them, this is what we're doing, these 6 things. If you say go, we'll do it. That's just my, you got to have the trigger cocked and say, this is it.
I agree with you, and I think several of those are easy to list. One would be gather input from the neighborhood association. 2 would be identify the exact location in each park, and obviously Scott has access to the mapping software and can do that. 3, what kind of signage does staff believe would be required, or other devices such as trash cans, poop bag dispensing machines. I think all that would need to be on there.
There was talk about water too, wasn't there?
And there had been talk about identifying on the map nearest water source.
I think the water source was discussed more in a permanent setting.
That's true.
Right.
That's true.
And that came up earlier, that would be down the line for the permanent parks.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
Off-leash areas. They all don't have adequate water supply,
Okay.
I guess.
Well, have we clobbered that one sufficiently?
Sweet.
Yeah.
That was
All
easy.
right. We'll move on. Camping in parks, consideration of rules changes. Denise, I think that's to you.
I believe you guys are aware of the emergency ordinance to allow camping in the parks, and that came as a special request, and the fact that we have in the past done some special request camping usage in our parks, so against our rules apparently. So with that, they did an action to allow that based on a special request use. The question now is, do we want to move forward from that action to make an amendment to the rules? And that would be to allow camping for special circumstances by request only, and then have our attorney then draft the language to make that work in legal language for us. The question is back to you folks if we want to pursue this.
Otherwise,
Or otherwise, it goes back to the regular language
prohibiting.
prohibiting camping in parks, which I gave you, I believe, the actual
Yeah.
municipal code, which is in teeny tiny
Teeny
writing.
tiny print,
Sorry.
yeah.
Which
So
doesn't help me either.
The change is
It was a 30
there will
day.
still be so you still won't just be able to camp in a park. You still need permission or permit.
It would be by special
Special.
request
Okay.
and approval by the department
Nice.
to allow it, again, not broadband, but by
Correct.
special request.
All right.
Has
Special
the
events.
proposal for the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde, has that been approved?
That's what stayed the 30-day emergency. That's what stayed the ordinance at that point, was to allow them to have that.
They've been approved
That's
already.
already done.
Yeah.
they've
Then
That
I-
happened.
Yeah,
That's already happened.
yeah.
I think it would be important for us to
Oh, yeah.
give staff the ability and leeway to make that decision on a case-by-case basis, rather than, there was a lot of effort and staff time went into this one thing, and so I look at it as cost. I think long-term cost is a lot less if we give them the ability to make the decision rather than having these 30-day stays on a case-by-case basis. That's kind of inefficient. That would be my take.
So what we're being asked for is a recommendation whether or not to amend the city code to allow camping on the limited duration, special event, special permit basis.
Correct.
Okay.
I so move.
I second.
Question.
Yes.
Is there criteria already developed, or will it just be as things come up?
I don't know that the criteria itself has been developed because this has just occurred. So there's an emergency information or emergency 30-day stay, which I don't believe. This one says the background is where camping is anticipated at Clackamas Park for a special cultural ceremony of the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde. That was the background that allowed the 30-day emergency stay of the code.
I just think that it puts the staff in a terrific, a hard situation if there isn't some kind of rules or criteria that they can use to
I
approve or
agree with that.
disapprove. So
What's the motion on the floor?
I pull the motion on the floor.
Okay,
What?
I'm looking at this staff report, the last sentence, or last paragraph.
Yeah. So did I.
The city will ask staff to report to PRAC to explain whether the event, which is this Grand Ronde event in July, was a success. Thereafter, staff recommends that PRAC submit a recommendation to the City Commission about next steps the city may want to consider. So it sounds maybe we're a little premature.
Since we did not get a report. You got a report.
This is, I apologize because that was not the part that I was briefed on, but my understanding is that the event went very successfully and that there is probably a want from that group to continue, as well as a couple of the other specialty event groups would probably want to continue to have a camping event at Clackamas Park, which is primarily where these are being requested. These are few and far between at this point. So again, I don't know that we have developed a criteria because it hasn't been allowed. So from my perspective as staff, I would want some criteria, and that may be our next step is to develop what it is the criteria would be and the recommendation. And have PRAC then look at it and decide if that is meeting with everybody else's perspective. I think I would.
So I could move to request that staff create a criteria for special event camping at Clackamas Park.
Or
by
within any
permit
city park?
Only.
She could word it how she wants. I mean,
So
Or
yeah, the
however,
question
yeah.
is do we want to keep it just at Clackamas Park, mostly because that's where, camping, some camping facilities already are. And so it's just expanding the area that they'd be allowed to camp. Instead of letting people put up tents in one of the neighborhood parks. Clackamas Park, the housing at Clackamas Park, the only housing down there is the motel, and that's also temporary kind of stuff. So
It's a good idea to keep the wording narrow.
I would like to keep it at Clackamas, yes.
Yeah, because there are some parks where it isn't appropriate, and maybe that does need to be part of it.
yeah.
So we have a motion on the floor.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on the motion?
I just need a reread before I figure out if I'm
exactly the
I'm
wording
voting.
you want to put out there.
Joyce's motion was to create a criteria for special event camping at Clackamas Park by special request.
That staff create criteria.
Staff create.
And then submit that
Now, do we
criteria
need
the
to-
PRAC so we can vote
Right.
on a recommendation?
Yes, right. Then it would come to us?
Correct.
Yeah.
and then we would recommend to the city, which the city
Right.
commission, which they've asked for here at the bottom.
And that would most likely include the amending of the municipal code, I would assume would be part of that.
Right.
Once
What
the
we're asking
criteria is
for.
in
Once the
place.
criteria is in place, right.
Correct. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes.
The sausage was made.
Look at how much faster we go than Congress. We've only been here 45 minutes.
Oh, I'm gonna, yeah.
What?
I'm gonna
gonna
recommend Bob
filibuster?
Mahoney run for president and get something done. That's under my public comment later.
Okay, PrAC member terms. Denise,
What do we
back to you
do? We
again.
skip the RV park master?
Oh, I'm
plan?
sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry. RV park master plan update.
It's my understanding you guys were aware of the landscape plan. Had a review of it at, I believe, your last or two meetings ago. I wasn't present at that, but Scott gave me a brief. And one of the points of interest by PrAC was the center island where the RVs park into each other, and there's a little bit of shared space between them. And it looked like there was some interest in seeing some division between the spaces. So landscape has been installed as a bit of a buffer between the adjoining spaces. So that's the difference that I believe you're going to see on the landscape plan in the middle island.
Low-lying
Yeah,
shrubs.
these
More
lower,
shrubbery.
yeah, the shrubs here.
Mhm.
Stuff.
So that's...
And there's more trees there too, yeah.
That was a concern that I brought up as a citizen at that meeting, and it's good to see that included.
And then I don't know, the one other thing that I saw that was changed is there were less planned plantings within that rock area there.
Which rock area?
Along the water.
As
The
it
shore.
slopes toward the river, I'm sorry, Denise, yeah. I've got the old one here too.
My guess was just
They were just kind of letting
flood and
the natural, whatever could grow there can grow there until it gets washed away.
It's underwater a good part of the year, isn't it?
It is underwater a good part of the year.
Yeah.
It
And-
was changed from,
We do close the area down, I think, sometimes 3 or 4 times a year, as it seems to be, we seem to be getting a little more high water over the last few years.
same thing.
Is this the same number of sites as there are there presently?
There's 2 or 3 less, I think.
Yeah, there's a
little bit
couple
Just
less.
a couple less so that we had the buffer zones.
Okay.
And the turn radiuses.
Much nicer looking.
Better
Mm-hmm.
amenities.
Right. What? You mean you don't like the
The
gravel
parking lot, right? The gravel parking lot.
yes, this is beautiful
Yeah, this is
compared to
great.
what we have.
Yeah, it looks great with the individual barbecue pits.
So is there any activity that we need to take, or this is just to inform
Just
us? This
just
is
an update
informative
to
only.
you folks
Okay.
on a
Denise.
request that you guys had.
Thank you.
I have one comment that was brought up that kind of just raised an eyebrow. Is they made the comment that the ADA sites would have a crushed rock area, and that's ADA compliant. And as I've camped through this summer, I've been paying attention to the ADA sites, and I have not run across a single one that didn't have asphalt or concrete in that area. So it just struck me as strange, and I wonder if it's a small amount of, I don't know which sites there are because they're not indicated on a landscaping plan, but if I was in a wheelchair, I would sure think that asphalt or concrete would be better than crushed rock, and the expense that it would cost in 1 or 2 sites would probably be appropriate and warranted.
I will take that back to the staff that's heading this project and let them discuss that with the consultant.
May I make one more comment, Mr.
You bet.
Chairman?
Absolutely.
There are a couple of lots directly east of the site, right by the McDonald's, north of McDonald's. I think they belong to the city, is that?
They belong to the Urban Renewal Commission,
Yeah.
and they're for sale.
Well, Those are really nice locations.
Buy
It'd be
that
nice to hang on to those, but I don't know all the ins and outs. But
Takes money.
Yeah, the Urban Renewal Commission is charged with creating the commerce and increasing commerce in the tax base in the city, so that's their charge. So
Last night,
They're actively
I know
pursuing.
that Bob and I came to the McLaughlin Enhancement Phase 2. Were you here too, Sean? Yes. Okay, so there were 3 of us down there. That was, I think, 3 out of the 6 public members that came to that meeting. Was pretty interesting to see what they're going to be doing to 99. That leads down into Clackamas Park. So that's going to be a nice enhancement, and hopefully will highlight that area.
So the access to this area from McLaughlin's going to be changed?
From the bridge into Gladstone all the way to Dunes Drive
Right.
is going to be changed. I mean,
Part of the
they're
99.
putting
But-
in landscaping all along and bike lanes.
But the road isn't moving, or there's no new
no,
access?
right of ways and none of that. The roadway is not changing whatsoever.
Okay.
You
Just
can view
a
that
refresh.
project on the homepage of the city website. It's
There
a
will be
highlight
some
project.
construction time.
One thing that I noticed at that meeting, though, that kind of comes back to Clackamas Park, though, is currently while that land is still vacant, it's the alternate parking for Clackamas Park,
Right.
and there's going to be some cut and fill in there. They told us last night, and that was kind of a change, that addition of fill will reduce the slopes in that area, which would actually improve parking for a temporary time. For park access, that's kind of a
Mhm.
good thing.
Question. When the camping event that took place this summer, where was that in the park?
Down from the RV park. So if you were looking, so you're going to go from, if you're looking from the rivers, looking at the river, you're going to go to your left. So out in the grass area just past.
Okay. Which then leads me to this plan. There's no access from the RV park to that area without going through campsites.
There's a pathway.
There's a bike path. yeah.
There's a paved pathway.
Oh, around the side.
Right.
Yes.
And so
On the side.
access is on foot.
Okay.
We're not encouraging vehicular traffic into that space.
No, I wasn't talking about for vehicles. I was talking about
So it's
a
here.
direct, a more direct trail,
Down here.
Yeah,
walking trail.
You can walk from John
But we're
Storm along the
from-
waterfront,
Yeah.
Right.
which
I-
this is the left side.
I know that. I'm just,
On the way down
to
to
me,
John
that
Storm.
area just to the south, between the RV park and John Storm, is just an island, and it's a great piece of property, and it's not all that easy to get to. So if maybe we're for special events, maybe we're not really trying to encourage camping in that area, but it seems like instead of having those 3 sites right across there, if there was a path that led from the RV park to that area. But then I guess you're kind of making more of a camping area out of it, and we don't want to do it really.
Well, is
I
there-
guess there's a little
There's
bit
a
of a path.
connection.
There's a small
from the
path
RV
over
park
there.
To the bike, this is the bike path. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so there is a little one there.
Yeah.
There's actually 2.
Okay.
There's a couple. If you look at that seat wall
Oh,
fire
there's
pit
another one over
area,
there.
there's
Okay.
one there as
All
well.
right, I guess I should look at the map a little closer. I'm sorry.
And then, of course, that.
Never mind.
And like you said, I don't think we're trying to encourage that use. It's a
Right.
special occasion
Right.
type of thing.
We're encouraging
Okay.
the use of the walk paths.
Right.
for the camping, what do they use for bathrooms? And they don't have any.
They're RVs, so they usually have their own bathrooms
In fact, you're
within.
required to be self-contained at this
Excuse
at our
me.
campground.
In July 21st, when the people came in for the
Oh, they brought in
camping, what
For
did
the-
they use?
For the camping, there's the bathrooms in the middle of the main park area.
So it's like a 200-yard walk to go to the bathroom. Is that right?
Probably a jog.
Well, my impression, they were camping down in those trees,
They're-
in that main wooded
Where the
section.
That's where I thought they were.
Yeah. where the classic car shows are.
I apologize. I might
yeah.
be misinformed,
Oh,
but I
that's
know
really
they
weird.
were.
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that's
If they were in
So
the
they were
main,
right near the bathroom.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if they were in the
Closer
main
to the
park area,
restrooms.
they're close to the
It
restrooms.
makes
Okay.
sense, more grass.
So I may be misinformed about their location, but it's a short jaunt.
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Just I got one more thing, kind of a
Yes.
looking forward from this point, and that is, how far into the master planning process are we, or how close to completing it are we? And B, we need to start thinking about grants and how to start getting this accomplished.
At this point, like as long as the concept piece is vetted, then they'll start working on what we call the construction document piece.
Okay.
Once you have your A&Es, your architect and engineer drawings, then you can start soliciting a little bit easier for grants because you have something that's almost shovel ready. So at that point, then the opportunity for funding is there. This is a large project, so larger dollars.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the anticipated construction timeline would be without having funds in hand, but that would be our next step, is to start looking at obtaining funding.
Question?
Yes.
That's a really good train of thought. At what point, though, I think my question, or the answer to my question, or his question would be also, at what point does this master plan be considered official? In other words, where are we on, this is the official master plan, it's been approved, this body or the city commissioner, whoever has approved it. I think we're wondering when that step is. And is there a public process or an open house required?
That I'd have to get back to
Okay.
you folks on because, again, I'm not the lead on this project. So I would definitely pass that back to Scott and have him contact you either via email or at the next meeting.
And I have a question that I've asked before, and I have to ask it again. At the time that dirt starts moving, where and who sets the priorities as to where this project stacks up compared with other projects? For example, the Glen Oak property.
I think I would have to, again, take that one back to Scott, but typically, sometimes things float to the top based on what dollars are available. If grant dollars for transportation type beds and heads, or heads and beds type situation, type grant, tourism grant comes into play that this one is more aligned with and we have access to funding, it may raise itself up in priority level just because of access for funding. If we had, the Kenema Children's Park was a partnership that one wasn't necessarily high on our radar, but came to the top because funding allocations were available, and that through partnerships. So sometimes while PRAC has their level of goals and their priorities, sometimes those shift based on the availability of a partnership and funding. If we don't have to do all the funding as a city entity and we have partners that are willing to give us funds and we just need to put some sweat equity into it, those tend to come to the top. So although this has been on your radar, it may not be your number one priority project. If we can find funds that are available in a short window of time, and say Glen Oak is typically an SDC development project or a partnership project with some other grant funds, this one may come to the front of the ship. So, we never know how those are going to play out until grant funds and all those other funds come. Sometimes they're handed to us in a really nice package.
Sure.
So, we can only hope that happens for some of our other projects. It may happen for this one prior to another one. We just never know.
Okay. I guess my concern is specifically the SDC funds, because it doesn't feel, and this may be the group's top priority for SDC funds. I don't know, but I don't think we've had that discussion.
I would have to talk to Scott to see if this one qualifies for SDCs. SDCs are typically, you're getting more than what you had before in terms of like Rivercrest restrooms. only a portion of it qualified for SDC funds because it was already an existing facility. So your SDC funds cannot be allocated to a maintenance project. It has to be something that gives extra space beyond what the capacity was before. Like, I think Glen Oak and Filbert Run
Mm-hmm.
are potential for, because it would be brand new development. Rivercrest itself as a whole in a park, because the envelope of the park is itself the same, we couldn't take the playground out and use SDCs to put the playground back in. So that's kind of how SDCs run. I don't know if this one qualifies or not in the RV park. I don't know what the capacity was original to where we're at now. I don't think it really changed. So I'm not sure that we're SDC qualified. So that's a question I'd turn back to Scott to see if we have any SDC availability for this project.
Thanks. That was a helpful explanation. Thank you. Yes.
You brought up a good topic. Since I'm new on the group, has the group discussed the kind of the budget and what's available in SDCs and stuff recently? Because I'd be curious to know that, and if it's been recent,
Not for
would
quite a
wait,
while.
but-
No, we should probably.
Not for
Maybe
quite a
it's
while.
not.
We should. Can you get that in your notes, Denise, to ask Scott for an update at our next meeting?
I certainly will.
Thank you. Good idea. And based on the rate, the way they're building houses in my neighborhood, there ought to be some
That's
money.
right. Amen. Amen. Bring it on.
Okay, anything else on the RV park? Okay, now we'll move on to PrAC member terms.
So PrAC member terms, there are 3 that are coming up to the end of their term. Bob Burns, and Bob has reapplied. We have received notification that he has reapplied.
Thank you, Bob.
Brian Watt, who has served his term limit. So Brian is not eligible to reapply. And Brian Burke, which I'm not sure what his interest level is.
I would love to continue, but I'm
Okay.
going to have to not. How my mic get cut off all of a sudden? I'm going to have to, for family reasons and other reasons, respectfully decline at this point. And I hate to do it, but I'm missing a girls' soccer game tonight, and I already missed a third of them because of work. So it's tough to, and amongst other things, being busy. So, but it doesn't mean I won't be back in the future. So at this point.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah,
Finish
we've
up
enjoyed
my time.
having you, and we hope that you do look to apply maybe later.
Yes.
This current application process closes on October 21st, so cutoff for applications is that day. There is a notice on our website, so we will continue to seek applicants.
So we have for sure 2 openings.
Mm-hmm.
We do have for sure 2 openings at this point in time.
All right. Anything under other general business? I do have one question that I guess is general business, and that, again, is back to Filbert Run and Glen Oak and the request for proposal for the master plan. Did that go out?
I would have to refer that back to Scott. I'm not aware of where he's at in that process.
Okay.
Apologize.
Okay. No, that's fine. Can you put that on, add
I will
that to
put
the
that-
Scott note?
Yep.
He's going to be sorry he took the night off.
Really? Really? Anything else under general business? Okay, we'll move on to PrAC member reports. We started over there before. We'll start at John's end.
I have nothing.
Okay. Adam.
I also have nothing new.
At the last meeting when we had the Ladderette Park, with the student that came in, and then there was a work day down at Ladderette Park, and I know that William Gifford was one of the community members that went down there and helped, scrub walls and fix things up, and they were doing some painting. I'm not sure it was completely finished. Is it still a work in progress? Not real sure, but it looks a lot better than it did before. I know that much.
That one I am also not, I don't have an update on. I think Larry was working closely with her. Larry is on vacation this week, So that is one that I will have an update back to you folks on. Sometimes we can do that fairly quickly, turn around with an email and give you an update. So I will check with Larry, because I know she was, I did approve her flyer to send it out to the community, and she said she got some good responses. So I know she was gearing up to do that, and I just haven't followed up because Larry then stepped back into his role.
Yeah, there were some neighbors that showed up to assist, and it was pretty nice.
Good. Great. Could use more of that. Nothing from me.
I've been keeping a close tab on the municipal pool because I'm planning on swimming there at 5 o'clock in the morning on Monday. And it looks like they will be filling the pool with water, maybe right
It was
now.
filling at 10 a.m. this morning.
Okay. And it looks beautiful. And there's new tile there. And the paint job and everything is great. Although they did take the red line out, so we can't say go to the red line and back anymore.
I do apologize.
So go to the black line and back.
They no longer make that paint in red.
Oh, okay.
So that was a conscious decision, one that we would have preferred to have remained red. However, when they have discontinued paint, we no longer have it.
Yeah. Well, we'll get used to that.
Is that the 6-foot stripe before it goes down the hill?
Yeah, just
Okay.
yeah. So it looks beautiful as usual. The pool improvements that have been done in the past several years have been great. So I'm looking forward to getting back in the water.
Monday morning, we're
Monday
open.
morning, 5 o'clock.
Cool. Have fun. I won't be
Yeah.
Although I'm only, I guess, going to be here for a few more months, I would really think that keeping the Willamette Falls project on a monthly agenda, whether it's there's nothing new to report or there is something new to report, I think the significance of that project should be something that's on our radar on a monthly basis. And maybe there's nothing to report, but at least it's continuing to be on the radar. And then I didn't see it on the agenda, and maybe I missed it, to talk about our day in the park.
Oh.
Or
Our report.
yes, just maybe what I mean. To me, it was great. We did a lot of work, but the attendance was off, and maybe we could kind of discuss that for future. But anyway, I don't know where that
should
would
we
fall.
maybe put that on next month when Lisa can be here?
Yeah.
Since she
Yeah.
spearheaded that.
Yeah.
She did a great
Oh,
job
absolutely!
with it. We
It
do
was
need to have a
beautifully
little bit of
planned and just
we do need to
something-
have a little bit of a postmortem on it.
Debrief.
Yeah.
Where we want to go.
Very
from
good.
there. So we'll put that on next month's agenda.
I had a
Bob.
full report on the Oregon City Day in the park,
Well, go ahead.
so
You want to do that?
I can't wait for a month. First, I want to say that Chapin Park, there's a lot of work going on in the parking lot with the new asphalt surface. It really looks sharp, and I wanted to commend whoever is responsible for that. It was needed, and it just did a great job. As far as the Parks Day, I thought it was very good for our first effort, and especially Lisa carried the ball and just did a yeoman job. It's a good idea, a good venue, great support from the city. Denise, Scott, and Larry were there all day and did a bulk of the work with signs and displays and so forth. Good food, but very poor turnout. And I think if it hadn't been for the water feature, we'd have been lonesome all by ourselves maybe. The water feature is a natural draw, and there were a lot of kids because of that. And of course, we had somebody down there working with the bicycles. And there was some interest, I don't think a whole lot, but some interest down there too.
Not enough.
Just a quick recommendation, I'll bring this back next month, but I think we should continue with this kind of an event. But maybe we can attach it to some other event that has a natural draw where we can be like, would have been nice with the activity down at the end of the trail. They had a lot of people, a big turnout. Would have been nice to have a booth down there for just people dropping by for other reasons, but we were there to benefit from their presence. Anyway, those are my quick comments. And as far as the South End Concept Planning group that I'm working with, the next meeting is October 15th. And that'll be at the McLaughlin School for anybody that might be interested. The plan is coming together. And they've moved the meeting from October 10th because of an Oregon City football game. I heard that comment today, where there's another event going on. But they moved to October 15th so it wouldn't interfere with the Oregon City Westland football game. Good choice.
Yeah.
Anyway, those are my comments.
Go
Thank you.
Pioneers.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Sean?
I don't have anything to report other than I was going to bring up the Parks Day, and it's been done twice. But to piggyback on what you brought up about the falls, as Bob was speaking, it made me think that maybe we should consider several goals that are PRAC goals related to that project. We want these 3 things, these 5 things, and maybe shoot for first of next year. And then, again, outwardly take that representation to the Planning Commission or City Commission and say, as a body, we recommend the following be attached to the priorities that the city places on this property. Something to think about.
Great idea.
Good idea.
Something else for next month's agenda. We're getting a
Wow.
We've got a full agenda already.
And if I can say, because we didn't have a meeting last month, there was so much that happened, this summer, that the event that did happen down at the end of the Oregon Trail with the Elvis
was great.
impersonator and all, that was such a great venue. It was such a great event. Huge turnout. And loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Yes.
Need to do that again too. But I guess the Trails chapter meets in different locations through Oregon and California and Washington, and so this happened to be the year for that, which was the impetus. But I don't know if there's any plans to continue that as an annual event or not.
It was really
I
nice.
think there's discussions at this point with the library coming online over at Carnegie that we'll start having discussions about the progression of concerts in the park and where that location may be with the very successful event at EOT and the venue being well received. That may be our next course of action of progression. So we're kind of having a little evolution in where we have our concerts just because of something great happening at Carnegie.
Yeah.
So that discussion is starting. Whether it's this year or next year, I think we're still kind of getting our feet wet a little bit, but it was very well received down at EOT.
Yes.
Anything else? Okay. Move on to staff reports.
Okay, guys, I apologize. I might be pausing so I can run the computer, do the reports, and make sure we stay on task with this. So for our staff reports, the Ripple Effect projects are a collaboration between We Love Clean Rivers, the Clackamas County Arts Alliance, and I think there are a few other groups connected as partners in that project, but it's bringing attention to clean rivers and sustainability, and some of it ties into transportation and things of that nature. The Mid-Run project, which is the art sculpture at Clackamas Park's entrance, that was installed in spring. And we have continued on with that project to install and reuse the dock piling that fell over down at Clackamas dock area. We had a really heavy run of weather, and one of the pilings literally bent over at almost 90 degrees out into the river. So we had it removed, and it's been sitting in the parking lot at the Clackamas boat ramp area for a number of years. So part of the reclamation is we utilized that piling and some other reclamation pieces that came out of the Cove and the Willamette and the Clackamas, I believe. There's a brand new sign installed at Clackamas Park's entrance. That happened yesterday. So we are continuing that project and doing a landscape of that island as well, kind of tie everything back together and clean it up. There is a dedication for the project on October 5th at noon, which is part of the Willamette Falls Festival. So if you're interested and available, again, noon, October 5th, we're doing a dedication of that art. They'll explain some of the reclamation pieces of that. And then there's another project that came up, I think when I came back from vacation. It's bike rack art. So along the same concept of reclamation, clean rivers, sustainability, transportation, and bikes, we have a brand new bike rack that will be installed at the EOT site, which there's a number of bikes that utilize that space. And we took the old bike rack out because I think it got ran over. So it is wagon wheels, reclamation metal, wagon wheels, oversized, and tied together by the axle and a tongue. And it's going to be right by the little tiny ticket booth, the old little tiny ticket booth, and the pavilion. And so right now there's a concrete pad there, but next week we're installing that art piece. So if you have a chance, stop by and see that one. And then on the way through Main Street there, just stop by Clackamat Park and look at the new art. If you don't come to the October 5th dedication.
That sign looks great. I saw it tonight.
It does look really
Yeah,
good.
it's really nice.
So Ben Dye was the artist for that, and it's been for me a little bit of a love-hate project, because small space, big project, and we have a few hiccups, but in the end I think it's going to look really beautiful. So again, October 5th. Mountain View Cemetery, National Day of Remembrance, that was held on the 25th. It had the new dedication of the memorial wall for the Oregon-Washington parents of murdered children. It was extremely well attended, very heartfelt, very sincere amount of emotion and ties to the incidences each of those families have been touched by. And fantastic speakers, absolutely 100% touches your soul.
And BCT provided food.
BCT provided the food. Our maintenance staff put on an amazing show as far as getting the grounds ready and partnering with Parents of Murdered Children to get that monument set. So it was hands down, I don't know how many hundreds of folks.
There was a lot of people
there. It was packed in there.
Yeah.
And so absolutely amazing event. Hands down our biggest event ever at the cemetery, including our memorial events, which are very large. This easily doubled. So I have what they had as their
The program, yeah.
program. So I'll pass this around. There's a picture of the monument in there. Scott went to our statewide conference, Oregon Recreation and Parks Association, and Oregon City won the design award for the Kenema Neighborhood Children's Park, which is a statewide parks award. So,
Ooh.
Wow.
ta-da.
Great.
So, and that is, again, a statewide design for challenging situations, partnerships, funding, the design, the volunteers. It's an all-encompassing, creative way of dealing with maybe a sticky park. And that park is absolutely beautiful for the constraints that it had and the budget it had. And we had some amazing partnerships with Metro and OPRD, Oregon Parks and Recreation Department, as a state grantor. So funding mechanisms that also put that project ahead, and we got something really wonderful out of it. I think we mentioned the Willamette Falls Festival, which is October 5th and 6th. And there's also, if you can read it with little tiny writing, dates, times, and all that good stuff on that. It's also posted on the city calendar.
Is this the one that's also in conjunction with West Lynn, with the Locks celebration or not?
That I'm not aware of.
So this is just happening in the Oregon City side and
Yeah.
down to the mill site?
I believe so. It's because it's the one that follows Heritage Area Coalition, Clackamas
Second.
County Tourism, Main Street, and Oregon City.
Okay. And I know that there's also a Chamber of Commerce event at the other end down at the EOT the same day on the 5th. So they're trying to tie all that together.
I think everybody's trying to, like Bob was talking, attach to an event and create some hubbub and vibe in the community, which, you know, if you have something that you go by and you, hey, what's going on there? It's really,
I
I
just
think
hope it's really nice weather for everybody.
cross our fingers.
Last year it wasn't.
We're Oregonians. Come on, out in the rain anyway. Let's see. Lastly, I apologize. Usually, I try and send the recreation and parks reports and the Pioneer Center reports via email. I've been inundated and I didn't have time to do it, so I did give you paper copies. Like Brian said, the pool was under some heavy construction to get some major renovations done. We sandblasted the whole entire pool liner and took it down to its bare bones concrete, sealed it up, and put on a new line of epoxy paint, which because our pool is not a leaking pool and it doesn't have a shell or, you know, some of those liners that cause problems, it's a really stable situation to just take the old paint off and repaint it brand new, and it should last us for a very long time. So we also stripped the gutters, put brand new tiles on because the tiles were originally in 1964. They're very hard to get in 2013. So as they break or fall off, we're just putting an aquatics putty on it. It came to our attention that after we started removing some of the tiles that sections of the concrete were falling off as well. So we did some major repairs in the pool. If you get a chance, stop by. It looks amazing. We've had leaks in our walls in the showers for quite a while. It's in block, so it's encapsulated in block. Makes it very hard to work on and find leaks without taking walls out. We did this is the part the public won't see, but will benefit from it. We have new plumbing through those walls to the showers, and we won't be having leaks through our walls. And with that, the wall, what was on the wall face before was coming off because of the leaks through the block. So we put new tile on the walls and we have brand new showers. So a lot of our shower fixtures were also original to the building. So now we have ADA fixtures and regular fixtures. We have fixtures that we can work on and have the ability to work on them. So visibly from the public side, they're just going to see the aesthetic piece of it, but it was quite a bit bigger project than what it looks to be. And it looks amazing. So little by little, we're stepping that building up to where it's, one, more efficient, and two, it just looks so much nicer. So, and we're using a very tight budget in order to do a lot of this work. So those are some of our really big projects that we did at the pool. So if you get a chance, stop by there, because we'll send you guys the before and afters, but just an amazing change. Kathy and her group had done talking about tying to another project or an event. Kathy's group, the Pioneer Center, their Meals on Wheels programs, their volunteer programs that they do, and the people that they service, they did a big booth over at the Safety Fair, which was held up at Safeway's parking lot, and that ties into fire and police, and they bring a lot of people into that event. So we got quite a bit of exposure, and a number of people picked up volunteer applications. So we're really hoping to get more volunteers over the Pioneer Center, as well as it brings to light what we do there, the Meals on Wheels programs and such. So not to take up any more time, there is a detailed report for you with all of our activities, all our numbers, and all our dollars. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Anything else from anybody? Okay, so our next regular scheduled meeting is Thursday, October 24th. And thank you all for being here. We'll adjourn the meeting at 8:28.
Thank you.
Thank you.